Hey everybody, happy Monday. I hope that everybody had a nice weekend and that you're excited to tune in and see what's going on in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. We left off at chapter 11, The Dueling Club. Let's get a nice zoom in of that picture. You can pause here if you want. The Dueling Club. Now I am going to try to keep that picture on the screen for you while I read, because there's not another picture for a couple pages here, I don't think. Harry woke up on Sunday morning to find the dormitory blazing with winter sunlight and his arm reboned but very stiff. He sat up quickly and looked over at Colin's bed, but had been blocked from view by high curtains that Harry had changed behind yesterday. Seeing that he was awake, Madame Pomfrey came bustling over with a breakfast tray and then began bending and stretching his arm and fingers. "All in order," she said, as he clumsily fed himself porridge left-handed. "When you're finished eating, you may leave." Harry dressed as quickly as he could and hurried off to Gryffindor Tower, desperate to tell Ron and Hermione about Colin and Dobby, but they weren't there. Harry left to look for them, wondering where they could have gone to, and feeling slightly hurt that they weren't interested in whether that he had his bones back or not. As Harry passed the library, Percy Weasley strolled out of it, looking in far better spirits than the last time that they'd met. "Oh, hello, Harry," he said. "Excellent flying yesterday. Really excellent. Gryffindor have just taken the lead for the House Cup. You earned 50 points. "You haven't seen Ron or Hermione, have you?" said Harry. "No, I haven't," said Percy, his smile fading. "I hope Ron's not in the girls' restroom again." Harry forced a laugh and watched Percy out of sight and then headed straight for Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. He couldn't see why Ron and Hermione would be there again, but after making sure that neither Filch nor any prefects were around, he opened the door and heard their voices coming from a locked cubicle. "It's me," he said, closing the door behind him. There was a clunk, a splash, and a gasp from within the cubicle, and he saw Hermione's eye peering through the keyhole. "Harry," she said, "you gave us such a fright. Come in. How's your arm?" "Fine," said Harry, squeezing into the cubicle. An old cauldron was perched on the toilet, and a crackling from under the rim told Harry that they lit a fire beneath it. Conjuring up portable, waterproof fires was a specialty of Hermione's. "We'd have come to meet you, but we decided to get started on the Polyjuice potion," Ron explained, as Harry, with difficulty, locked the cubicle again. "We've decided that this is the safest place to hide it." Harry started to tell them about Colin, but Hermione interrupted. "We already know. We heard Professor McGonagall telling Professor Flitwick this morning. That's why we decided we'd better get going." "The sooner we get a confession out of Malfoy, the better," snarled Ron. "Do you know what I think? He was in such a foul temper after that Quidditch match. He took it out on Colin." "There's something else," said Harry, watching Hermione tearing bundles of knot grass and throwing them into the potion. "Dobby came to visit me in the middle of the night." Ron and Hermione looked up, amazed. He told them everything Dobby had told him, or hadn't told him. Ron and Hermione listened with their mouths open. "The Chamber of Secrets has been open before?" said Hermione. "This settles it," said Ron in a triumphant voice. "Lucius Malfoy must have opened the chamber when he was at school here, and now he's told dear old Draco how to do it. It's obvious. I wish Dobby told you what kind of monster's in there, though. I want to know how come nobody's noticed it sneaking around the school." "Maybe it can make itself invisible," said Hermione, prodding leeches to the bottom of the cauldron. "Or maybe it can disguise itself, pretend to be a suit of armor or something. I've read about chameleon ghouls." "You read too much, Hermione," said Ron, pouring dead lace wings on top of the leeches. He crumpled up the empty lace wing bag and looked around at Harry. "So Dobby stopped us getting on the train and broke your arm?" He shook his head. "You know what, Harry? If he doesn't doesn't stop trying to save your life, he's gonna kill you. The news that Colin Creevey had been attacked was now lying. The news that Colin Creevey had been attacked and was now lying as though dead in the hospital wing had spread through the entire school by Monday morning. There's some patterns on the page, but you'd have to be really close to see them. The air was suddenly thick with rumor and suspicion. The first years were now moving around the castle in tight-knit groups, as though scared that they would be attacked if they ventured forth alone. Ginny Weasley, who sat next to Colin Creevey in Charms, was distraught, but Harry felt that Fred and George were going the wrong way about cheering her up. They were taking it in turns to cover themselves with fur or boils and jump out at her from behind statues. They only stopped when Percy, apologetic with rage, told them that he was going to write to Mrs. Weasley and tell her that Ginny was having nightmares. Meanwhile, hidden from the teachers, a roaring trade in talismans, amulets, and other protective devices were sweeping the school. Neville Longbottom bought a large, evil-smelling green onion, a pointed purple crystal, and a rotting newt tail before the other Gryffindor boys pointed out that he was no longer in danger. He was a pureblood, and therefore very unlikely to be attacked. They went for Filch first, Neville said, his round face fearful, and everyone knows I'm almost a squib. In the second week of December, Professor McGonagall came round as usual, collecting the names of those who would be staying at school for Christmas. Harry, Ron, and Hermione signed her list. They had heard that Malfoy was staying, which struck them as very suspicious. The holidays would be the perfect time to use the Polyjuice potion and try to worm a confession out of him. Unfortunately, the potion was only half finished. They still needed the bicorn horn and the boomslang skin, and the only place they were going to get this from was Snape's private stores. Harry privately felt he'd rather face Slytherin's legendary monster than have Snape catch him from robbing his office. "What we need," said Hermione briskly, as Thursday afternoon's double potions lesson loomed nearer, "is a diversion. Then one of us can sneak into Snape's office and take what we need." Harry and Ron looked at her nervously. "I think I'd better do the actual stealing," Hermione continued in a matter-of-fact tone. "You two will be expelled if you get in any more trouble, and I've got a clean record. So all you need to do is cause enough mayhem to keep Snape busy for 5 minutes or so." Harry smiled feebly. Deliberately causing mayhem in Snape's potions class was about as safe as poking a sleeping dragon in the eye. Potions lessons took place in one of the large dungeons. Thursday afternoon's lesson proceeded the usual way. 20 cauldrons stood steaming between the wooden desks on which stood brass scales and jars of ingredients. Snape prowled through the fumes, making waspish remarks about the Gryffindor's work while the Slytherins snickered appreciatively. Draco Malfoy, who was Snape's favorite student, kept flicking pufferfish eyes at Ron and Harry, who knew that if they retaliated, they would get detention faster than you could say unfair. Harry's swelling solution was far too runny, but he had his mind on more important things. He was waiting for Hermione's signal, and he hardly listened as Snape paused to sneer at his watery potion. When Snape turned and walked off to bully Neville, Hermione caught Harry's eye and nodded. We'll find out what happens in tomorrow's installment of Harry Potter. All right, y'all, have a great Monday.